What is going on, everybody? My name is JT from PWB, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different kind of company for me that I'm usually used to watching, and we are going to be reviewing the TNA Sacrifice event that happened on March 8th, 2024. The location was Windsor, Ontario, Canada, and it was at the St. Clair College, which they were touting as sold out, and it definitely wasn't a big area or like a place to hold a wrestling event. I would say there was probably like 500 to 700 people in there. But I mean, the crowd was pretty hot overall. So I mean, props to them on that. But yeah, a little bit of background on my knowledge and my just scope of TNA is that I really haven't been a big fan of the product for about maybe 7 or 8 years. I really liked it when they had Styles and Rude and Abyss and Angle and guys like that. Austin Aries, not maybe not his his personal opinions and the way he acts, but he was a big piece of their product and was a huge star for them at the time. So I've been keeping up with like their who they got in the divisions and who their champions are, and if they have any good matches, I'll watch. Like I saw the Osprey Alexander match and the Ali and Sabin match, just to name a few. So I've seen those, and I've tried to tune into the weekly product. I haven't thought that it's been super strong, but I've been wanting to expand my horizons and watch more wrestling than I just the usual companies that I stick to. So this was kind of a point for me to really test what I like and see where that leads me. And I enjoyed this event overall. It was pretty solid. It had a lot of it had some standouts. It had some low points, but overall, I'd say if the short review is that if you would like to watch some more wrestling and want to try and get back into the TNA product, maybe I would say this is a decent starting point for sure. But yeah, the commentary team for this was, I really don't know how to say, Matthew Raywalt and Tom Hannafin, aka Aiden English and Tom Phillips, if you know either one of them from WWE. They were all right. I mean, Tom Phillips is pretty good. Aiden English, just good. Sorry, Matthew Raywalt. I mean, he's all right. They're nothing special. They did a decent job. I did not watch the pre-show. I honestly didn't even know there's a pre-show until after the fact. We started off with what I thought was the best match of the night pretty easily. That was Nick Nemeth defeating Steve Maclin with the Danger Zone in 14 minutes and 22 seconds. This was easily the best Nemeth has looked since he left WWE. And from what I've always seen from Maclin, he's been pretty underrated. I don't really see people talk about him. It's probably because he is in TNA. But yeah, he's been pretty solid every time I've seen him. Just to recap a little bit of the match, Maclin scored first with a cheap clothesline. They just started and he, cheap clothesline just right off the bat. Nemeth hit a nice dropkick and a splash in the corner, and then Maclin countered a neckbreaker and tossed Nemeth shoulder first into the steel ring post. And then one of the things that I enjoyed throughout the match was he kept calling Nemeth Dolph, and I thought that was funny. And he would like apologize, so I thought that was pretty funny. Maclin continued work over Nemeth's back in the match and locked in a crossface at the same time. And then, after a little bit of a fighting spirit hope spot, Nemeth dropped 10 elbows on Maclin, his classic, Ziggler spot. But this time he changed it up, and the last one went from the top rope, and it looked sweet. He's got a great elbow drop from the top. And then Maclin, this was actually an insane spot. This was probably the best spot of the night, besides maybe one in the next match. Maclin tried to go for a spear in the corner, but he missed, and he went through the bottom rope and crashed into the ring announcer's area and almost took out the ring announcer. I mean, this dude was shot out of a cannon. He looked crazy. This looked wild. I don't know if that's how they planned it, but that spot was pretty insane. So the referee counted to 7, so Nemeth went outside to bring Maclin back into the ring. And then once he threw him back in the ring, Maclin was lying in wait and hit a knee to the face for a close 2 count. He then followed it up with a buckle bomb and a tombstone piledriver, but Nemeth kicked out again. Nemeth then countered the KIA and went for a super kick, but Maclin caught his leg and hit the KIA anyway. And then they struggle for a little bit, and then Nemeth finally ends the match after 2 super kicks in the danger zone for the win. So the main issue with this match was the feed that I had, and I think everybody's feed, unless you get the cleaned up version, the feed kept like cutting in and out, and it kind of, you couldn't really see like the finish for a lot of it, and it kept just cutting in and out. But if you can find the clean version of this without any of the hiccups or anything, I would definitely say go out of your way to check out this match. I gave this one 4 stars flat. The crowd was really hot for this opener, and it was just a good match. It was definitely, like I said earlier, but the best I've seen Nemeth since he's left WB, and I've seen him in his New Japan stuff and some of his other stuff. So this is, in my opinion, it was the best match of the night. The next match, which was The System, which was Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards defeating ABC, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, via a lariat knee combo to win the TNA World Tag Team titles. And I gave this one, and it was 13 minutes and 22 seconds. I gave this one 3.75 stars. And every single time I've seen ABC, they've been pretty great. And I don't really have like the most confidence in The System having great matches with a team that isn't as good as ABC. Because, I mean, it's Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. Maybe if it was Eddie Edwards from, like, 2013 with the American Wolves, I'd have some more confidence. But from what I've seen from Eddie Edwards, he's kind of turned into, like, a backyard kind of guy. But this was pretty solid. There were some pretty good spots. There was a nasty spear that Myers hit on the apron. I think it was to Ace Austin, which kind of made its way around on Twitter and Instagram and everything like that. It was pretty sweet. But yeah, this had a lot of high-paced offense from ABC, but ultimately the interference from Alicia Edwards helped The System win the titles, which makes sense from everything I know. The System are getting a massive push because they have Myers and Edwards, and then Moose is obviously the world champion right now, and The System are like his muscle, not his muscle because it's Moose, but his backup essentially. So yeah, the tag team division is definitely a highlight for TNA at this point. They've got a pretty strong TNA division, They've got a pretty strong tag division. So hopefully putting the belts on Myers and Edwards doesn't just like absolutely crater the match quality. Because I'll talk about it a little bit later, but they do have some very bad divisions in some areas of of their company. I mean, people want to talk about AEW having a weak women's roster. I mean, good God. Check out TNA's roster. Next up, we had, oh boy. The feed was not working great for these first 2 matches, and I still thought they were really good matches. However, the feed worked perfectly for this next match, and what a great time to work perfectly. PCO defeated Kon with the PCO salt in 8 minutes and 22 seconds. I gave this a generous 2 stars. Look, if you like shitty hardcore matches, you might like this. I did think it was funny, so I'll just recap from the beginning, the little bit that I recapped. And if you don't know who Kon is, it's Connor from the Ascension from NXT from a few years ago. And he's even older than he was before. Well, that's how time works, baby. So Kon came out and beat up the timekeeper for some reason, and then the commentary team was like, oh, this is like how he beat up the timekeeper at another area or other arena or something. And then he told the crowd, why don't you shut the hell up? And then he called out PCO even though they already had a scheduled match. So I'm not really sure why he called him out, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to challenge him when they already had a match. So, yeah, I mean, if you enjoy very old men hitting each other with things, or you've never seen a hardcore match in your life, I guess you'd enjoy this. PCO literally cannot move. Besides his moonsault that he does, he literally cannot move. So that's what he used it for the win. They were hitting each other with cookie sheets, and I don't know, man. If that's what you're into, you can watch this. This was not really for me, but it was harmless, I guess. It wasn't really offensive. So, yeah, I don't even know how to start this next one. So, this next match, it wasn't even really a match. It was essentially just an angle. It was Spitfire, Danny Luna, and Jody Threat defeated MK Ultra, which is Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich, via a roll-up to win the TNA Knockouts Tag Team titles in 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So, yes, you heard that correctly. The TNA Knockouts Tag Team titles changed hands via a roll-up in 2 minutes and 34 seconds. So, this was not really, obviously, a match. It was really just an angle. So, MK Ultra came out and attacked Spitfire before the match, and they just beat him down. Masha Slamovich was beating Danny Luna up. He's beating her down in the middle, and Slamovich tags out to Killer Kelly, and they're trying to do a double team move, and Masha gets dragged out of the ring, and then Killer Kelly gets rolled up, and they lose. So I believe this is obviously an angle to break up MK Ultra and just transition the belts to somebody else. But yeah, I mean, this is not really anything to talk about except for the angle. I would assume that potentially this is to get Masha Slamovich into the title chase after Jordynne Grace, because boy, does that division also need it. Jordynne Grace needs some more exciting challengers. I'll definitely say that. Next, we had, this seems like a controversial opinion from what I've seen most people say. We had Hammerstone defeating Josh Alexander with the Nightmare Pendulum, which is like kind of a sit-out elevator after a low blow in 18 minutes and 19 seconds. And I gave this one just 3 stars flat. I just felt it like it was so slow. The first 10 minutes were just designed to be a Hammerstone control piece, and it just felt like for eternity. And then the middle portion got decent, and there was some good stuff from Alexander fighting off Hammerstone, and he eventually landed a German suplex, and that was followed by Alexander holding onto it for 9 more suplexes, which is pretty cool and a pretty nice spot. And then they brought out of the ring a bit, and Hammerstone made it back into the ring at a count of 9. Then he fell out of the ring, and Alexander hit a running senton over the top rope, which that also looked pretty clean. I don't think Alexander... I like Hammerstone from what I've seen, and Josh Alexander is pretty good too. I just think kind of the layout of this match was not... It wasn't what I wanted. But I did see people like this more than me, so... Hammerstone bounced Alexander's head off the top turnbuckle and then climbed to the top rope. And he was kind of not super confident with his dropkick attempt. And Alexander trapped him in the ankle lock. And that was kind of looking like it was over. But then Hammerstone fought out and went for a clothesline attempt in the corner. And then Alexander moved and Hammerstone took out the ref. Like an idiot, Alexander then trapped Hammerstone back in the ankle lock and forced him to tap out, but there was no official to see it. This is another thing. I thought the finish was not good at all. Alexander definitely would have been able to see that that referee was out and have known to not either keep this locked in or don't do that right now. And so, just classic babyface being a moron. Hammerstone then recovers and low blows him and hits the Nightmare Pendulum for the win. I thought the finish just really sucked. And, with the boring first 10 minutes and a bad finish, I was just disappointed in it and only gave it 3 stars. It was very similar to the main event, except I thought I gave them, similar ratings. I mean, I'm not going to totally spoil what I thought of the main event, but I gave it pretty similar rating just because I thought they were kind of built similar. I just think Hammerstone and Alexander are better than the guys in the main event, and the finish honestly was better here than the main event. So yeah, just give that 3 stars. I'm sure these guys, both of them are good. I didn't like the way the match was laid out, really. Moving along next, we have the Grizzled Young Vets and Mustafa Ali defeated Time Machine via a 450 splash from Ali to Shelley in 14 minutes and 11 seconds. And I just gave this one 3.25 stars. It was a decent 6-man match that was really pushing the dissension between Shelley and the 2 other members of Time Machine. So it was kind of more of a storytelling type match with some decent action in it. Ali's presentation with the Secret Service and the the security during his entrance is pretty fun. I don't like his promos that he's been cutting. I don't really think his gimmick overall. Like, I don't really like these type of gimmicks where like presidential or like politician. I think they're kind of stupid, and I don't really like his gimmick. But I do think his entrance is pretty good. Regardless, this did have some good heat segments and action from both teams. Kushida at one point had a double hoverlock board on the Grizzled Young Vets, which is a highlight. Eventually, classic tag team match. Get some heat on the baby faces. They eventually make a hot tag. Eventually, Shelley made the blind tag on Sabin, and then Sabin went for a big boot in the corner, but hit Shelley instead. Then Gibson and Drake hit Grit Your Teeth on Shelley, followed up by a 450 from Ali for the win. Shelley is definitely going to go heel, and I have some high hopes for that. I'm excited to see where that goes, storyline-wise. But besides that, this was a decent match. I say probably, let's see what I rated the other ones. I would say this is probably like the third best match of the night, because I liked the first two matches better than this, but I thought this one was pretty good, especially if you like a lot of these guys in it. Following that, we had something I didn't have high hopes for, and that was, and they weren't exceeded, and it was Jordan Grace defeating Tasha Steele and Xia Brookside after hitting a Juggernaut driver, which is like a pump handle driver on Xia Brookside to retain the TNA Knockouts Championship in 12 minutes and 38 seconds, and I just gave this 2.5 stars. It really didn't do much for me because, if you watch this match, Jordan Grace is maybe 100 times better than both of the women she was in the ring with, and she was literally the only compelling part of it. I don't think Tasha Steele and Xia Brookside are very good, and Jordan Grace is very good, so it was just like she was just outshine them so bad. And then we also had Ash by Elegance, which is the former Dana Brooke, sitting at ringside with the camera just panning to her every minute. And it just got really annoying at certain points. Not that the action was super compelling, but, this didn't really help. And then at one point, Brookside spilled expensive $8,000 champagne on Ash, which resulted in her assistant busting his ass accidentally, and then both of them hightailing it out of there. So Ash by Elegance got upset that this champagne got spilled on her, and so she was like wanting her concierge or assistant or whatever they call him to escort her out, and he like fell on the entrance ramp. It like added to the hysteria of it. So that was honestly one of the highlights of the match. So I would assume that sets up a Brookside and Ash by Elegance feud, which you want to talk about a match I'd like to miss. There it is. Eventually, Grace pins Brookside with the Juggernaut driver. And, yeah, I just gave it 2.5. This women's division is pretty horrendous right now, with nobody close to Grace's level of skill or intrigue with the departure of Trinity, a.k.a. Naomi, and then Deonna Purrazzo. So that's what I was saying earlier, is I think that they're probably going to break away Masha from Killer Kelly, and they're probably going to go into a feud with Masha's probably going to go into a feud with Jordan Grace, which are, I would say, the two best women on the roster. So hopefully they can somehow scrape together a decent title program, because this was not it. Main event time, and we had Moose defeating Eric Young with a spear after Kazarian interferes to retain the TNA World Heavyweight Championship in 22 minutes and 5 seconds, which felt like 50 minutes and 55 seconds. I gave this one 2 3/4 stars. It just felt very similar to the Hammerstone Alexander match with 2 less interesting guys and the really stupid interference from Kazarian. This really never got out of first gear and was heavy control by Moose, which makes sense story-wise and with the story they were telling, but it just wasn't interesting. People who are grab a hold, brother, those people will love this match. There were a lot of chin locks and headlocks and bear hugs and, things like that. So, that's Big John Studd would be really proud. EY hit some good offense later on in the match, but at that point, the match had already lost me. And then, Moose was working over Young's ribs the entire match, but it didn't really factor into the finish because Kazarian screwed over EY anyway, which, again, why does Moose need so much help to be young? I don't know. It was really average to me. I don't know if I'm just not like super into Moose or super into Eric Young, or if this whole thing wasn't very interesting to me. So, but I mean, like I said, this is the only point that I was really kind of dragging. The rest of it was pretty easy to watch because I just watched it all in one short go through. So this was kind of the only one point that it was dragging, just because I knew Moose was not losing, and it was just the work wasn't very compelling. But overall, all the match averages except for the Knockouts tag team title match, because I didn't put that into the average, just because it really wasn't a match. The match average for everything, I had a 3.04 out of 5. That's just me just combining all the scores that I gave the matches and then dividing it by however many matches there are. Yeah, I mean, right around a 3-star average, which, like I said, lots of highs, lots of lows. So that makes sense to me. The overall rating that I gave to this event, I just gave it a 6.5 out of 10. Overall, I enjoyed the show, and the crowd was pretty hot for everything except for the like really, really bad stuff. I would definitely check out the first 2 matches, even if you like aren't into the TNA product. And I would definitely say to find a feed that didn't have the technical issues that hindered like the feed that was being watched live. If you're wanting to get into the product, I would say, like I said earlier, this is a good starting point. It isn't the worst to show to fully watch through. Although, like I said, I was dragging by the middle stretch of the main event. So, yeah, I think I'm going to, at least for a few weeks, I'm going to consistently check out the weekly product for TNA. And if it just falls off for me like it usually does, I'm just going to stick to the pay-per-views at that point, just because I don't think the weekly product is really essential viewing when you can just kind of know what's going on. So yeah, that's pretty much all I want to talk about. If you have any opinions like on this show or this review, or you want anything, want me to review anything else or talk about anything else, just leave them in the comments of the YouTube video. If you just want to talk about it or any other company or show or yada yada, you can just DM me on Instagram at Pro Wrestling Bites, Bite to the Y. I also have a Twitter and a TikTok if you want to reach me on either one of those. I don't really use them as much, but I do check them, and it's just the same handle. You can listen to all my content about wrestling via the Pro Wrestling Bites YouTube channel, which this is going to be on, and I'm working on getting these shows added to like the major podcast platforms. And I think it's up on like, what is it on? It's on like Spotify, Google Podcast, I think like Amazon, I think. And I'm working on getting those released to like Apple and some other platforms. And I just dropped a Dynamite review the other day, so check that out if you're into AEW, which is what I'm probably the most into right now. I'm going to be working on some other reviews and projects that I have, but if you guys have anything that you want me to check out or review or talk about, or any topics or anything, just let me know, and I'll definitely look into them. But yeah, that's about it for me. I appreciate if anybody's watched this or listened to this. Definitely leave a review or a like, subscribe, yada yada, whatever everybody else says around these parts. Around these parts. That's the Southern coming out in me for sure. But yeah. All right, I'll catch you guys next time. See you.